second. All right. All right, well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Bay Trail Confidential. We're really pleased that so many of you could join us tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and share my slides. We've got some really great stuff to talk about tonight. So this is our 7th show. We've been doing this. I've been doing these Zoom programs since the start of the pandemic, and I just looked at my numbers. I've had more than 80 different programs, over 5,000 people. So thanks for being part of that. We are hosted by San Francisco City Guides. We're a nonprofit that does tours in San Francisco. We're doing walking tours again. In fact, I'm going to be doing my Haight-Ashbury walking tour in a little over 2 weeks on May 23rd. Just want to remind everyone, we're going to keep everyone muted during the program, except for the guests who have joined me. I'll tell you about them in a minute. But we really encourage you to make use of chat, and feel free to put whatever you want in chat. I do ask that you keep the language respectful, but we are interested in your questions, and you're welcome to share your thoughts on whatever we're talking about. We know we have a somewhat controversial topic on the Richmond San Rafael Bridge. Not everyone feels exactly the same way about this. There's differences of opinion. So again, as long as it's respectful, feel free to share your thoughts there. I do have show notes that I put out on my website. So a lot of the things we're going to be talking about tonight, you can get more information on this web page. So I will, we'll be putting that in the chat, and it will also be in the email that I send you tomorrow, which will also include a survey. So I am joined with my co-host, Ethel Konopka. Ethel, how are you doing tonight? Oh, you're muted. Are you able to unmute? Let me just double check that, make sure everyone can unmute. There you go.
There you go.
Right.
So yeah, I'm doing really pretty well now that I'm unmuted, but getting off the injured reserve list really makes everything a little bit better.
Good, that's right. We're gonna see your Bay Trail cred in a minute. Also joined by Warren Wells, who is with the Marin County Bicycle Coalition. How are you tonight, Warren?
I'm great, Rodney. Thanks for having me here.
It's very nice to have you. Andy Fremier from the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. How are you, Andy?
Rodney, I'm doing very well. Thank you for the invite.
Really happy to have you. Dave Campbell. Dave, are you with us?
I am, Rodney. Good to see you, and good evening, everyone.
Great to have you. And then Maureen Gaffney, who we're calling her Citizen Gaffney now. She was with the Bay Trail Project for 16 and a half years and has moved on, but we're going to talk about that. She accomplished a lot of great stuff during her tenure. How are you tonight, Maureen?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much, Rodney, for having me here tonight, and so great to see everyone.
So great to have you. And then here again, Dave is with Bike East Bay, great advocacy organization for bicyclists. Warren is with the Marin County Bicycle Coalition. Andy with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. We'll be hearing his thoughts and others on the bridge when we talk about it. And then Bruce Bayart of the Trails for Richmond Action Committee. How are you tonight, Bruce?
Great, Rodney. The folks from Marin and North Bay are going to have a treat tonight and using the bridge to discover the 36 miles of Bay Trail in Richmond.
We do have a lot of great places to visit. So here's our program tonight. We're going to talk about the Richmond San Rafael Bridge Access, which we currently have. And it's a 4-year pilot. We'll talk about what we have to look forward to with that. Then we're going to talk about Maureen Gaffney's tenure with the Bay Trail Project. We're going to have our photography contest. And we'll talk a little bit about our best of the Bay Trail thing that we're trying to figure out, like what is the best park bench on the Bay Trail. And then we'll wrap up. So we have this thing we call Bay Trail Cred, where we talk about where folks have been on foot or on a bike on the Bay Trail, just as a way of like seeing how different people are oriented towards this wonderful public space. So this is Ethel's, which hasn't changed too much because Ethel has, you've been trying to get over a leg injury, but you think that's going to change pretty soon, right, Ethel?
It's changing as we speak, getting better every day.
Well, we've got a lot of great places for you to visit that we've talked about on past shows. Maureen, So Maureen has covered a lot of the Bay Trail, but still you have some South Bay areas, and now you don't actually live in the area anymore. So Maureen, we're gonna have to get you to come back. And here's Dave Campbell's, very credible Bay Trail cred. Looks like you've done a lot of bridge crossings. And Warren Wells has done a lot, really more in the North Bay, but both of you guys have good experience down here with some of these wonderful places in the South Bay. And then here's mine. I've actually gotten to 100%. So I've started over. This is my new Bay Trail cred, and I'm gonna just start working. It took me about a year to get the whole thing completed. And now I'm gonna see how long it takes for me to do another complete coverage of the Bay Trail.
That is really cool, Rodney. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I saw a lot. The thing that I really learned is that, the Bay Trail, you think it's like, oh, well, I know the Bay Trail near me. And you think, well, the other places around the Bay are probably similar. And the thing you learn is that they're really not. But let's talk about this Richmond San Rafael Bridge that we currently have access to. And I'm going to go over a few slides, just kind of give us some background, then we'll start talking to our guests about it. So this is the Bay Trail card, the map card that shows the bridge. And you can see, there's a lot of stuff on either side of the bridge. We're going to talk about attractions, really cool places to visit on both sides of the bridge. There's some really nice photographs you'll see during this presentation. Here are my takeaways about the bridge. First of all, it's about 4.5 miles to cross the bridge. And if you were going, say, from Point Richmond to the Larkspur Ferry, it's going to be about 7.7, close to 8 miles to do that. E-bikes are permitted on the bridge, and they can make the commute more viable. It is important to remember there's a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit on the bridge. It's a good surface, so if you have mobility issues, it is something you could do. Also, it'd be a good place to take a kid on a bike. It's totally safe. The bikes are segregated from the cars. Perfectly good place to walk or bike. And as we'll get to this idea, like there's some of the attractions on both sides. Now, I know there is this idea that there's some traffic issues on the bridge, and what is the best way to alleviate that? And I think this slide kind of shows different ways of using space. If you have 50 people, this is how much space they would take if they were on a bus. Same 50 people, if they were on bikes, it would take maybe a little bit more space than the bus, but not much more. But this is what, when you have single occupancy car travel, this is what 50 people are going to take up. So it really, is a question of like, does just expanding the space on the bridge solve the problem? And we're going to get more into that question in a minute. Most of you know this is a 4-year pilot study of the, forgive that question there. It's UC Berkeley's involved with it, along with Caltrans. They're looking at how the bridge is being used, and they'll get some metrics from that. And there were improved connections on both the Richmond and the San Rafael sides, which we're going to talk about in a second. And it's been open since November of 2019. So we see on the Marin side, some really good improvements have been made, particularly like going over Sir Francis Drake, going over the highway there. There is a crosswalk now at Anderson Drive, which makes that safer, and a connector path along East Francisco Boulevard right after you get off the bridge that I found to be pretty complete up to this business park, although it gets kind of narrow in places, but it's useful. And then here's a crossing at on East Francisco going to Sir Francis Drake Boulevard, which has the green striping to make it more visible. On the Richmond side, some really great work has been done. We'll take a look at some of those, but here's like the Richmond Greenway, and there's a connector to that. There's a really good connector from Point Richmond to get you to the bridge. So like South Garrard Avenue, I hope I'm saying that right, Garrard Avenue. Very nice protected bike lane there. Here's coming from Point Richmond to the bridge. I love this picture because we show a guy with his children, and I always think that's the standard that we need to really think about. people should be able to take their kids on these bike routes, or these paths. I should call them. They're both pedestrian and bike routes. And then here's the crossing as we get closer to the bridge. Here are the metrics that we've seen so far on bike use of the bridge. And, I know there's been some talk about whether we're seeing a lot of use or not enough use. We've had some events that have really suppressed the usage of them, including, of course, the pandemic. There was also the events with poor air quality and some winter weather. Here's what the usage is looking at during the day. So we do see it kind of peaking in the morning, and then we get a little more later on. We do see different kind of use during the weekend. And here are the counts that we're looking at compared to the other bridges that go over the bay. So it's ahead of the Venetia and the Carquinez Bridge, but way behind the Bay Bridge right now, and a little bit behind the Dumbarton Bridge. And we're going to talk about how we should be interpreting that. And then we haven't seen a ton of pedestrian use of the bridge, and we're going to talk about some ways a little later on that might make the bridge more useful for pedestrians. So, we've got some of this data is pretty, it's preliminary because we've only had the bridge open for a year and a half, and we've had COVID going on. But the hope is we're going to see more use of the bridge. Now I'm going to start asking some questions. I thought I'd show this video of just someone. It just kind of shows a bicyclist going across the bridge as we talk. But Andy, let me start with you. When we talk about the bridge, is it a simple matter of, either this is going to be for bikes or for cars? What are the things that you're looking at from the Metropolitan Transportation Commission to decide what's going to happen after this 4-year pilot?
Sure, Rodney, that's a fair question. Look, I want to be clear. We have not come to any conclusions about what's going to happen with it. I do think your premise that it's important for the bicyclists and the pedestrians to really make it a success now that we've offered them the opportunity. We've promised to do several things during the study. One is to learn from the experience and make adjustments. So I know there's a lot of concern about incidents and accidents that happen on the bridge. Just as a point of reference, they happened before the bike path was there as well, and they create problems. And we need to find ways to clear those problems. And we've committed to working with the California Highway Patrol and the California Department of Transportation to provide the tools and the expertise to adjust to the incidents and try to clear them as quickly as possible, which is consistent with what we try to do across the region, regardless of where the action is. We also promised to take a look at the bridge and its capacity to work both for vehicles and for bicycles. And we've managed to do most of that engineering work. And it is pretty clear that the bridge can probably handle whatever we all think is the right use of it without significant investment for strengthening the bridge, which we think is very important. The last piece that we do need to focus on, and I think in the next couple of months, you'll see some reports coming out of the Transportation Authority of Marin and also of the Bay Area Toll Authority, where we really try to understand the traffic impacts to this addition to the bridge. We did some very preliminary work early on when we were studying it. And part of the problem is, as we have seen in various other bridges across the region, the bridge itself is not the problem. The problem is too many cars and very limited access when you get on and off the bridge. So what we've seen is that your overall traffic for most people, regardless of the lane being closed or not, is about the same. And if you add additional traffic by putting the third lane on the bridge, we do see that Sir Francis Drake and some impacts along the main 101 corridor don't really save any travel time. So we've got a conundrum and we've got to work through it and try to find out what the best solution is. And we've got some work to do in that 4-year pilot to try to make a case, hopefully to keep the path there forever, because I think we have been very surprised and pleasantly surprised by the amount of usage. It's very difficult with these bridge corridors to decide how to invest in their best use. But I think one of the questions that is in front of us as a society is what are we going to do about the climate, and what are we going to do about single occupancy travel? And we thought this was a pretty provocative way to challenge that question. And I'm really excited about what the results are going to give us. And I think it is up to this audience and others to show us that it's a valuable investment.
Thanks for that, Andy. Let me ask, like, Andy, or sorry, Maureen and Dave, from the bicycle organizations, like, what do you think needs to happen to show a trend that there's going to be more bike use of the bridge as we head toward the 4-year period of this study?
Dave, do you want to start out?
And I'll just mention, I'm showing some pictures of places near the bridge as we talk.
Rodney, Dave Campbell here with Bike East Bay. Our perspective on the pilot is let's start it once we get the connections to the bridge finished. And we're actually not there yet, but we're getting really close. And Warren can update us on the Marin side when we finally actually have a completion of the connections. And then let the games begin. And I think with e-bikes and good connections to the bridge, we're only going to see the usage on the bridge double or triple. And then I think Andy's question people can start thinking about what their answer to Andy's question is. What are our goals? What are our priorities here in the Bay Area for mobility?
Yeah, to follow on from Dave's answer there, the connections to the bridge are so key. I really want to give a shout out to City of Richmond on the east side of the bridge. They've done a lot of work really improving, taking the roads they had and adding, safe, protected connections so that people can get from, the Richmond Greenway or from the marina to the bridge kind of directly without having to mix with traffic. On the Marin side, which is the side that I work on, we have a little bit of ways to go. As you mentioned, Rodney, there's a couple gaps where you're on a nice, separated path, and you kind of get dropped off into traffic. Actually, that particular gap you mentioned is going to be just got funding and will be closed later this year, I hope. And then there's still a gap in safe infrastructure on the Larkspur side. Like coming up, for instance, Drake right now is not a low stress experience. So if you're an experienced rider, it might be okay, but it's not a ride you take your kid or your grandma on. So what we're doing at Marin County Bike Coalition is really pushing to try to get those all ages and abilities connections so that we really can see, what this bridge use would be like. Imagine if how many people would drive it if you drove halfway there and you had to go over a gravel road for 3 miles before you get to the bridge. Like, no one would take this one. So that's what this experience is like. We're trying to make a seamless experience for all riders and pedestrians to cross the bridge.
Yeah, I love that standard of, like, can you take your kids on these routes? Because that's good for everybody. And, I personally, I've really been enjoying the bridge access. In fact, I used it today. And, I just think, it's going to take a little while for people to get used to using this resource. And, Dave, you mentioned e-bikes, and it's not like you can't just like overnight give everybody an e-bike. What is being done to promote the use of e-bikes, and where do you see them fitting into all this? And Andy, you're welcome to jump in on that question too.
Ronnie, there's a lot going on to incentivize e-bikes. There's legislation at the state level this year to offer some financial incentives to get e-bikes. Contra Costa County has a e-bike rebate program going on now, and these are kind of being seeded by various transportation agencies around the state to kind of get e-bikes going. And of course, the bike shops that sell e-bikes are selling out. So they're becoming more and more popular. And I think it's only going to grow, and not just e-bikes, but e-mobility devices. We're seeing them everywhere. And also, Rodney, I want to remind everyone, we're going to be getting bike share in Richmond soon. And I think we'll get an update on that during the program, but we're going to see a lot more e-bikes. And yeah, the ride across the bridge becomes a lot quicker on your e-bike, a lot more viable too.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, even in this past year, even without any e-bike subsidies, there's the one in Contra Costa, but there's still a bunch of e-bike subsidy, like there's a bill at the state level and at the federal level that haven't happened yet. We saw e-bike sales increase 127% in 2020 over 2019. So they're already booming. Like Dave was saying, shops can't keep them in stock. And if we start subsidizing them the way that we've been subsidizing electric cars since 2012 in California, we're going to see so many more people riding. So far, in the last 12 years, California has spent $1 billion subsidizing, Priuses and Tesla, and hasn't spent any money subsidizing electric bikes. And that could change this year if AB 117 passes at the state level.
Yeah, I saw someone in chat mentioned there should be a limitation on certain e-bikes. I think it's an interesting question. I do think there's that 15-mile-an-hour speed limit is something that should be respected. And it's really the philosophy of this program that when we have shared space, we need to use it in respectful ways. So like I try to be really careful when I'm biking past pedestrians. I don't want to rub them the wrong way. And even if you're on a e-bike that's capable of going fast, that doesn't mean you have to go fast, and you really shouldn't be when you're on the bridge or when you're around people.
Hey, Rodney, if I could chime in, this is Dave real quick. Yeah, I think the best rule is don't go faster than 15 miles an hour. If no one else is around you, if more people are around you, slow down. It's good to keep in mind that the Bay Trail, the Bay Trail land site and these bridges have lots of jurisdictions. And so one jurisdiction could say, we want a speed limit of 10, the other jurisdiction, we want a speed limit of 15. We want to regulate this type of technology differently than that technology. And it's just going to be a mess. So we need a coherent approach. And the best that I've seen so far is have a speed limit, something reasonable, like 15 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's my thinking is like, we're sharing the Bay Trail. It's a wonderful resource, but you just have to remember there's other people out there too, and they have needs also. And so I do want to mention like some places, and this is speaking more to the recreational use of the bridge, but there are just really great places to visit on both sides of the bridge. We've got, Bruce mentioned 36 miles of Bay Trail in Richmond, and these are just some of the places. There's so many more we could even mention. But like, there's historic Point Richmond, that's a really nice town. There's lots of outdoor eating, and it's just a great place. If you haven't experienced it, you really want to. There's a winery at Shipyard 3 down here. Just so many cool places. This is my neck of the woods, so I kind of know it well, but if you live in Marin, this is a real destination. And then on the Marin side, this is the stuff I've been getting to know more about. Beautiful shoreline park leading to San Rafael. I just went to Johnny Donuts for the first time today, and boy, they're really good, but they're kind of deadly. But I you're just going to want to ride hard after you eat something like that. I love the Smart Train, because what you can do with the Smart Train is you can ride somewhere, maybe go to like a place like Hamilton, which we're actually going to be talking about on our next Bay Trail Confidential show, and then take the train back. So it really enables you to go further, and you can do all kinds of riding around Marin if you take advantage of the Smart Train, which is at Larkspur Landing. And then that Cow Park Hill Tunnel in Path is, it's really neat. It's like an old rail. I think it's an old rail tunnel that got converted. Is that right, Warren? And it's nice and cool in there. Do you guys have anything you want to add to that? Actions?
Yeah, as someone who lives in the East Bay and crosses the bridge a lot, Marin is just phenomenal for camping. I've done probably like 4 or 5 camping rides now where I've started in the East Bay, met up with some friends or roommates during COVID and gone and camped over in Marin. So it's a really easy trip to get to China Camp, just across the bridge. If you want to go a little farther, you can either go to Tam or to Samuel P. Taylor, a little further up the valley. So those are a couple of things I couldn't get to without a car before the Bay Bridge opened.
Yeah, and we're being a little bicycle centric, and that's kind of my personal bias. but we're going to talk in a second about ways that you can really, but walk across the bridge and take advantage of it that way. We were mentioning e-bikes a moment ago, and I just learned that this Gotcha electric bike share is coming to Richmond and to Marin soon. Like I think they said in May, so it's not there yet, but it's going to be there very soon. And so this is like you could on either side of the bridge ride these, and it's not clear to us if you could ride them over the bridge, but that'd be pretty cool if you could. So that's something to keep in mind. And then Dave, you mentioned the rebates in Contra Costa County, and it's a larger rebate if you're low income, but there's a limited number of these. So if you're interested in buying an e-bike, the time to do it is now. Grab one of these rebates if you live in Contra Costa County, which I do, and I'm tempted because they do seem really. Every time I've ridden one, I've had a good time. Here's what we
Hey,
wanted
Rodney,
to-
do we have an answer from maybe Andy on the Gotcha e-bikes? Are they allowed on the bridge?
Yeah, no, Dave, they are allowed. Gotcha is actually a program that TAM and CCTA are working on. We're doing something similar at MTC and BATA to provide a subsidy for the program. But yeah, Gotcha is a TAM and a Contra Costa. I'm not sure of the specifics. I will say though that we do agree that the e-bike is a game changer. For a long time, we thought about these improvements as recreational improvements, and that really rubs folks in the wrong way, I think, in terms of highway investments. But with the e-bike and looking at the range and the folks that can ride e-bikes and where they can cover and the ground they can cover, we really think that these recreational projects have turned into real transportation options. And that just makes them that much more viable. One of the projects I'm really trying hard to work on is to complete that path into San Francisco. And what sort of changed my original opinion on it was the e-bike itself, because it really does become a way that you can expand capacity on that very congested corridor, and you can do it in such an awesome, active way that it just has so many benefits. So that's my explanation of Gotcha. How's that? I trailed.
I used to have a little phrase, imagine if your commute relieved stress. And this would be a really great experience to be biking on an e-bike to work. You would have a really good time. It's a beautiful view on that bridge. It's a little noisy with the cars. And I saw someone in chat mention that maybe electric vehicles are going to help with that. But it is like a tremendous view. I wanted to mention that there's transit on both sides of the bridge, and this could really enable people who want to walk across the bridge. There's a Golden Gate Transit bus. It's running about once an hour, and you could, if you time your trip, you could take it back. It goes from this is the Point Richmond stop, and then on the other side of the bridge in San Quentin, so San Quentin Village. So. And it does have room for a couple bikes on the bus, but we do not see that as an alternative to the path, because 2 bikes an hour is really hardly anything. But this is cool. It's good to know about. And this, by the way, this information will be on my website in the show notes. And then I mentioned the Smart Train. They're kind of a limited. They have a limited schedule during COVID right now. They're not running on weekends, which is unfortunate. But it can be pretty useful if you're doing a weekday trip.
Rodney, my information is that Smart's going to start picking up weekend service again mid-June when the governor says all clear.
Oh, that's great. That's great, because I do think that can be a really, really fun experience to bike over the bridge, get on the Smart Train, and go to some other place. Those trains are really nice. And then this is what I did today: 2 bridge bike loops. So you can ride across if you're coming from where I am in the East Bay, go across the Richmond San Rafael Bridge and the Golden Gate Bridge to San Francisco and take BART back, or you could go maybe from Marin and take the Richmond San Francisco ferry, or I can take that ferry. This is the Craneway Pavilion in Richmond, and it takes you to the ferry building and then ride from there. It's about a 35, 36 mile ride from downtown San Francisco, maybe a little more, maybe I should say closer to 40, but if you're up for that, it's a fantastic ride. And this is it's one of my little trips I'll show you guys as we're talking. So at this point, we think the decision on this is going to be made at the end of the 4-year period. And who are the decision makers for this?
I guess that's me, huh, Rodney?
Okay, so
That's probably the $60 million question. Obviously, one thing to consider is the owner of the bridge and the owner of the state highway system is the state of California and Caltrans. So they obviously have a role. It's also an interstate freeway. So the Federal Highway Administration has a role. I think while we are very much involved and have a relationship with all parties, we don't have a direct role. And so our job is to kind of present the facts and hopefully make a solid case for why this is a good place to stay invested in active transportation. But again, I'll refer back to 140 participants here. You got to show that it's worthwhile. We provided the avenue. Now it's time to do some work.
Yeah, and what should people do who want to have their voice heard in this debate?
Well, we can always accept information at MTC. There's very easy ways to communicate with our information staff. John Goodwin, I believe, is on our participant list, and maybe he could put a link to what's the best way to communicate with us. But we'll be tabulating all the information, all the input, both positive and negative, and we'll use that to support a decision on how to move forward. I will say that the challenge is to make it through the whole 4 years. I do appreciate Dave's comment about when does the 4 years start, and I think that's a legitimate question. But I do think that there is significant pressure on us today, as you read in the Spotswood article, to make a decision now, that the decision has been made based on the usage. And I think for a lot of the things that we're talking about, we're very mindful of the original commitment that we created between a partnership of Transportation Authority of Marin, the Contra Costa Transportation Authority, Caltrans, and MTC, and the Bay Area Toll Authority. We committed to 4 years to study it and to make adjustments. And that's what we are trying hard to stick to. And we'll see how it goes.
Hey, Andy, this is Dave with Bike East Bay. Can I ask, while I got you on the air here, what have you learned from open tolling and its ability to relieve congestion? And what have you learned from congestion pricing on the Bay Bridge that might help on other bridges to relieve congestion?
Yeah, those are good questions, Dave. And I will say that we've got a suite of projects that we're working on associated with trying to make improvements for getting vehicles a much more reliable transportation, passage. It's pretty interesting. When you look at the Richmond Bridge, there's a very short peak in the mornings during the week, and there's a peak also on the weekends. So it doesn't appear really that there's much of a difference whether it's the commute traffic we're concerned about or the weekend traffic. It has a different bubble, but it does have an impact. So what we've been trying to do in concert with this all electronic tolling transition, to look for other improvements that we can make to provide more reliable opportunities for transit so that hopefully we'll get more of those Golden Gate buses through that bridge in the peak. And so we have a series of projects that are designed, first of all, to take advantage of COVID. We originally had a plan of converting all of our bridges to all electronic tolling over a 5 or 6 year span. COVID and the governor's decision to take the collectors out of the booth accelerated that 5 years. That put open road tolling right back in front of us. And what that means is we're working very diligently on removing the toll booths and trying to provide a much more laminar kind of approach from the Richmond Parkway across the bridge. As I mentioned, one of the things that we know is the bridge itself is not really the problem. The restrictions are all of that movement happening in the Richmond corridor, where the Richmond Parkway, the 580, and the local traffic coming out of Point Richmond really create a bottleneck and a bunch of weaving. So hopefully by getting 7 lanes down to 3 or 4, we'll have a better opportunity to make that traffic move smoother. We're going to provide transit benefits where transit has a priority, as do high occupancy vehicles. because our goal is to try to convince folks that a different mode of transportation other than single occupancy is the way to go, that will really support moving folks through that impediment. As I mentioned, though, the problem of open road tolling doesn't solve the problem of congestion at the toll plaza. So what we are trying to focus on is the overall transportation benefit by providing open road tolling, by improving transit connections, by hopefully keeping this bike and pedestrian access open, that we'll have a better opportunity to move more people in a reliable way across that commute pattern. What we don't want to see is just moving the bottleneck west, which is what we believe the initial traffic information shows us, that you just move the bottleneck to that star on the left. And that doesn't solve the problem for folks, and it doesn't really relieve the frustrations of a long commute. In addition to that, what we have noticed across the Bay Area, and it's not specific to this particular corridor, that traffic incidents cause about 50% of our delay. So what can we do about improving the safety of the movement? I do think by removing some of the weaves, we will solve some of that problem. By providing good, quick incident response and clearing incidents quicker is another tool that we have in our tool set. We have to get creative on this particular project because of the restrictions of the 2 lanes. But we do think we have some things that we want to try and experiment with. They'll likely take a little bit longer than a couple of years to get on the street, but we're working hard at moving those forward. And I will say that even though BATA has had some struggle with loss of toll revenue, what we've heard from our commissioners that are involved in that BATA recovery, as we call it, are committed to open road tolling projects that remove the toll plazas as an impediment and make that whole transportation flow work a lot easier. And so we're hopeful that that's going to provide some additional benefits and maybe make a little bit of relief there. But open road tolling by itself is not going to create any kind of a panacea for removing congestion at the plaza. We know that.
Great. Thanks, Andy. Just want to mention, I ran across this today. There's a promotion going on that you can scan this QR code on either side of the bridge. That's actually what these stars are showing. And you can get entered into a raffle where you can win a tandem bicycle. There's also a $5 Amazon gift card if you scan it on both sides of the bridge. And if you do that 5 times in the month of May, you'll get a $20 Amazon gift card. Warren, is there anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, you nailed it, Ronnie. Yeah, so just this is a program through 511 Contra Costa, City of Richmond. All the partners are in here. The Richmond QR code is pretty easy to find. The one on the Marin side, you have to go up the path a little bit. If you go on the Marin County Bike Coalition website and go to our Bike to Work or Bike Month page, you can see like a real good description of where each of those little QR codes are. And like Rodney said, if you get the first time, you just get a $5 gift card. If you do it 5 times in commute hours, you just get $20. And also you get entered into a raffle as long as you do it once for some Timbuktu bags, a dinner at a really nice restaurant in Richmond, and a tandem.
Well, I wouldn't mind getting a tandem. I already have a tandem, but there's no reason not to have 2. So that's very cool. I want to thank all of you for telling us about what's going on with the bridge. I think a lot of us have many of us have enjoyed it, and I think we've inspired some others to get out there. I saw a lot of great questions in chat, and I just want you guys to know at the end of the program we'll do more Q&A. But I did want to move to our second topic because it's a really important one to me. Citizen Gaffney, riding into the sunset. So Maureen Gaffney has been with the Bay Trail Project for 16.5 years. And Maureen, you're like, you've flown over the cuckoo's nest. So we're going to talk to you. This is Maureen on the Richmond San Rafael Bridge, high-fiving. So this is what she did a lot of the time. And yet she got a lot done during her tenure. We'll show you that in a second. And this is Maureen. This is inside one of the supports of the bridge, right?
Yes, yeah, there's a legend about trolls on each of the bridges in the Bay Area, and actually I am the bridge troll in the Richmond San Rafael Bridge, unbeknownst to most people.
Well, so we're gonna talk about some of the things you've accomplished. You wanted me to show this picture. Here's biking on another bridge. Of course, this doesn't exist yet, but this was an ad a few years ago. Is that right?
Yeah, so many years ago, I think this is probably in like 2006 or something, Absolute Vodka had this ad agency. I don't know who they were, but they were super, super creative. And they had all of these, they had this whole run of in an absolute world, and it would show something, that people thought was either, funny or provocative. One of the other examples was in an absolute world, and it showed Northern and Southern California as two different states. And but this was my personal favorite. And in an absolute world, this is the bike and pedestrian path on the west span of the Bay Bridge. All you do is you put in a little barrier and you call it good, and everybody gets to start using it. This is what Andy was just talking about a few minutes ago, with feeling like e-bikes would really be a game changer for use of many of our bridges and highways around the region. Allowing folks to ditch the car and get on their bikes for some of these longer commutes. But this ad and this photo has been there were several versions of it in the MTC and ABAG offices that were framed that moved around the office for several years as a way to keep hope alive for the Bay Trail on the west span of the Bay Bridge.
Boy, that'll be a great day when that happens. It will happen.
It will happen. Absolutely.
So let's talk about, like, you're the person who makes these things happen. So when Maureen started with the Bay Trail project 16 and a half years ago, this was about how much of the Bay Trail we had around the Bay Area. And of course, the goal is for this thing to completely span all of San Francisco and San Pablo Bays. But this is where it's at now. This is what you and your colleagues accomplished in that period. And it's really kind of mind-boggling. This is a lot of work. A lot of these projects were pretty, I'm sure they're very challenging. And we're going to talk about some of the things you're working on now and some of your favorite places. But I hope, Maureen, it just feels good to see the fruit of your labor shown in this way.
It does. It's very exciting. It's also, it's a little hard to look at it and say, oh God, if only that little red spot from there to there was actually complete. I really wanted to get that done, but we've got great people are still working to fulfill the whole, fill in the entire shoreline of the bay with the red for the showing the completion of the Bay Trail.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a glass half full kind of thing. Like, we can all think of the gaps that we would love to see completed, but we should really appreciate. It's a good time to step back and to say it's a wonderful public resource. So let's talk about some of the things that you're kind of working on right now that you're excited about. You were telling me about this Vista Point Trail, which is going to be on the Golden Gate Bridge, basically. So we've got this Vista Point here that gets a lot of tourists, and kind of navigating around it, especially if you're trying to get on. It's to help people get to the western side, right?
Yeah, it's the whole, the use of the Golden Gate Bridge for cyclists and pedestrians is a little bit confusing. They have different times of day and different days of the week that cyclists and pedestrians are supposed to be on alternate sides of the bridge. So it's a little confusing, but so we're just we'll leave that part for now. But the Vista Point Trail, and one of the reasons that I wanted to talk about this project in particular is just that I feel like a lot of, I think, Rodney, you had asked, what is it that people don't know about the work of the Bay Trail? And I think one of the things is people, you know, who aren't doing this work think, well, why does it take so dang long to get some of these projects done? And I still have that question, but the Vista Point project is a really good example of why it takes so darn long to get what is a relatively short segment of trail done. If you can go back to the aerial view of this project. Yeah, so this is the Vista Point, and this is on the Sausalito side of the Golden Gate Bridge. And you've probably been here before, and you see that that there's sort of a dirt road that encircles the whole, that encircles the whole Vista Point that you probably don't know about when you go out there. And this is an old historic road that goes down to Fort Baker. And probably almost 10 years ago now, National Park Service and the Bay Trail and lots of other partners, Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy, Golden Gate Bridge District, Caltrans, decided, yes, we really do want to reopen this old road to provide a new and absolutely beautiful connection down to Fort Baker that will take a ton of people off of Alexander Avenue. And a lot of a lot of tourists in particular, and folks who are on some rental bikes and people with kids. The Alexander Avenue area is just a mess, and it's kind of scary to see, you know, how many people use that corridor to get down to Sausalito. So this will be a great and beautiful way to get down there. But some of the issues with it, you know, back in the old days when they painted the Golden Gate Bridge, they used lead-based paint, and that's just what was used. And so some of the lead from that painting was carried by the wind and was deposited here in this area. So now you've got lead contaminated soils to deal with, and you've got all of these different jurisdictions, and then enter the regulatory agencies dealing with Department of Toxic Substances Control. I mean, all of these things are really important to get right, but they all lead to more time, more money, and lawyers. And then when you get lawyers, then it just takes a long time. So that's just one really good example of something you could sort of look at this path and say, this should be easy. It's already basically there, but it's got a lot of different jurisdictions involved: the Bridge District, Caltrans, National Park Service. So, but these artist renderings are.
Yeah, it's there, but it doesn't look like, even if you open it up, it wouldn't look like this. This looks really nice.
Yeah, this is what it's going to look like when it's completed. And right now it really is just a dirt path. So this will be a paved pathway with some pullouts and interpretive signage, and it'll loop down underneath the Golden Gate Bridge and connect you directly to Fort Baker. And it's just going to be fantastic.
Well, we're really grateful for your hard work to help make this happen. Look forward to that.
Yeah.
Here's another view. It's funny because I just did Alexander Avenue today, and I was thinking I would much rather have gone through Fort Baker. It's so nice down there, but I didn't have a really good way to get up to the bridge.
Yeah.
Another thing I did today was crossing the Corte Madera Creek, and you're working on a fantastic new bridge for that. We've talked about that on the past programs. This is kind of what it looks like now. But yeah, again, this is going to be like a big improvement, right?
Yeah, and this is one that, in fact, one of the very first grant programs that the Bay Trail had in like 2003 or 2004, funded a feasibility study looking at how to improve this segment of the Bay Trail over the Corte Madera Creek. And there were two options that came out of this. One was, using putting a new bridge in the footprint of that old trestle. And this was sort of the second place option, putting it on what are called the bent caps. And this has broken ground. This project is moving ahead, and it's really, really exciting. Did you see work on it today?
Yeah, I did. I had to go, they restricted where I could go, but I was able to get across.
That's
Also,
great.
everyone who tunes in regularly to Bay Trail Confidential knows, it has a Belvedere. That's like those of us who are not bridge people, we didn't know about Belvederes until this program, but it's going to be like a nice place to just kind of check out the view on Corte Madera Creek, which is really pretty.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we just talked about some of your favorite places on the Bay Trail that you're going to think fondly of in your new location. But the Las Colinas Valley Sanitary District doesn't sound like a great name, but it's really beautiful. Has lots of bird life and good like biking. And we're going to be talking about this on the next show, on the June show. We're going to talk a lot more about Hamilton and the Las Colinas Valley trail there. But I know, Maureen, you're really into birding, and of course, it's a great place to see bird life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Who would have thunk that that the sanitary district is the place to go see birds, but it really, really is. And we have a new Birding the Bay Trail brochure that is hot off the presses, and this is one of the featured spots. So if you want to, I think that PDF is up on the Bay Trail website, and we also have a big stack of actual printed brochures. So
Wow.
reach out to Lee and see how to get one of those.
Yeah, I think we want to talk more about that. And then you also mentioned this is like a really nice stretch of Bay Trail, the Blackie's Pasture to Tiburon Trail. It's funny, I used to ride the road until I knew about this trail. I used to just ride the road, and it is really scenic.
Yeah, this is the creme, one of the many creme de la cremes of the Bay Trail. It's really got everything. It's directly adjacent to the shore, fully separated, probably 12 to 14 feet wide, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Really, really one of my favorite spots. It's hard to choose. It's like choosing your favorite child, but it is one of my favorite.
And it meets the you can take your 10-year-old on it standard that we really like.
Absolutely.
I love seeing kids on bikes, because I know they're gonna grow up and be future bicyclists. So
Absolutely.
we want to encourage that. And then you did want to mention a East Bay location. By the way, these are all really good places to visit when you cross the Richmond San Rafael Bridge.
Yep.
Worth saying. But you said you really like Shipyard 3, which is kind of at the end of this long trail, but has some really cool stuff.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I just this just feels like such a surprise to me every time I do it. The National Park Service has just done such a great job out here with the Rosie the Riveter, and with highlighting the shipyard and what happened there and the very rich history. I used to work for many years at the Port of Oakland, and we were building a park there. And it just the industrial history and just the whole feeling out here is just it's really special. And I have always really enjoyed getting out there. And yes, the Richmond San Rafael Bridge is an excellent way to get there.
Yeah, and it's usually not very crowded. There's an osprey nest on top of the whirling crane. Am I saying that right? Whirly crane?
Yes, whirly crane.
Thank you.
Whirl around.
Bruce would help me with that.
Yeah, they moved big chunks of pre-built ship sections into place to weld them together. And they
And I see that Philip has put the there's a webcam that you can see right now. You can see them right now if you use that web address that Phil put in the this is a picture I took a couple days ago. They're on the nest right now, and I guess there's eggs and stuff. It's pretty cool.
3 eggs hatched this month already.
Oh, is that right? Wow. And then there's a winery there too, which I have not checked out yet, but I will very soon. And then this really cool building. We talked about this on the Richmond program, but we never get tired of talking about Richmond because there's so many cool places to go. So that's it. Hopefully that's the big takeaway from this show is, go experience these places on both sides of the bridge. And you can be thinking of Maureen and all the great work she's done as you do that. Any last words, Maureen, before we move on to our photography contest?
Go Bay Trail. Let's
Bay
do,
Trail.
let's keep the bike and pedestrian path on the Richmond San Rafael Bridge, and let's get the path on the west span, and next will be Highway 37. Thank you so
Yeah,
much
Highway
for,
37. That's a whole other topic, but that's going to be tremendous.
yeah.
So the photography contests were park benches on the Bay Trail, because I have kind of an obsession with them, because I like to eat my lunch on a park bench on the Bay Trail. And so I'm always looking for a great one. And this is one at the Coyote Hills Regional Park. And a great picture there, but we got some really good photographs that you guys are going to vote on. In fact, I'll put the poll up, but you're going to get to see all of these, and you'll vote by letter. And I have to apologize to my guests, because if you're a co-host, you're not allowed to vote in the poll. It's kind of like being the queen or something. But I'll show you 5 benches, and we'll go back through them. And then the winner will be whoever gets the most votes in this poll.
Ronnie, can you tell us the locations of all these if you know?
I should know that. So, well, let me go through all 5 of them first, and then we'll go back. So this one, I believe, is near, it's like more like around Hayward, East Bay Hayward, I believe. This is on the Carquinez Strait. This one is Hayward. And this one is also on the Carquinez Strait, kind of tucked away. And I think this is, oh, well, that's Berkeley. So this is like Albany Bulb. So I did not get a ton of entries for this contest. And I can imagine as a photographer that the challenge of photographing a park bench may not be the easiest challenge. Keep voting. I'm going to keep the voting open for a little bit. Now, here's the 5 pictures if you want to see them all together. But I really appreciate everyone who entered the contest. The contest, we want to get more images, and so these can be useful to us for the show. That's kind of why I pick the topics I do. Next month's topic is going to be railroads and trains on the Bay Trail, on or near the Bay Trail. And I'll mention, as you guys keep voting, I'll give you like another 45 seconds to vote. These are our contestants. Oops, didn't mean to do that. These are our contestants. I guess I put a little timer to change the thing on there. And I do want to mention that the winner gets a set of Bay Trail map cards, which you guys hopefully know are really cool. And they are brought to you by Serena Seaton, who works for the Bay Trail Project. And I told Serena, since she's so kind to do this, that she could choose a Bay Trail place to recommend to everybody every month. And so she has recommended the Sears Point Restoration Area, which is a great place, which we talked about on our January show. And now I'm going to end the poll and share the results. And it looks like the winner is C. Go back to that. Yeah, really nice shot. I really like that. And, I just think that looks like a great place to eat lunch. So I guess I'll have that to look forward to someday. And next month's contest, as I said, is going to be trains and railroads on or near the Bay Trail. And I need you to submit the photos by a week before the show. So that's going to be Wednesday, May 26th. Our show is going to be on June the 2nd, and we are going to focus on Hamilton and the Las Colinas area. And I do want to thank all the folks who got us great photos, and I particularly want to thank Bruce Bayer, who got me some really nice photos from this guy, John Worley. Is it John Worl or Worley, Bruce? And I will have links to some of these photographers on my website. So we're at the hour. I'm going to play our Happy Trails music. But we're going to move to Q&A if you guys want to stick around for that. It's optional, but we would love to hear your questions. We'll try to look at some of the questions in the chat and answer some of those.
Happy trails
Everybody hearing the music?
to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds if we're together? Just sing a song and bring the sunny weather. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Until we meet again.
So that's another Bay Trail Confidential. Again, want to remind you, the next one will be the first Wednesday in June 2nd at 7:30. You can register on our website. And I want a special thank you to my wife, who's always really helpful and supportive of this. The guy who did that music, Jason Myers, the folks who did the music for the slideshow, who are a wonderful Andean group, and basically everyone whose efforts have given us the Bay Trail in other public spaces, and that would certainly include Maureen. Thank you, Maureen. Lee Huo, who's I know on the program, and everybody who works for these organizations. I'm really grateful to everything you do. And now we're going to ask people to raise their hand, and I'm going to call on you to ask any questions. You can also put questions in chat if you'd like to do it that way. And we can discuss your question. You can also make a statement if you'd like. Would love to hear your thoughts. I saw a question about places you can go to do a short walk on the Richmond San Rafael Bridge, and I think someone answered that in chat. But there's a good parking area on the Marin side near San Quentin Village, which is a good place to go from. And then on the Richmond side, I think you can also park near the toll plaza. So Jim, give me a second, Jim, and I will enable you to unmute. Why is this? Okay. I'm going to give me one more second here, Jim, and then we'll hear your thoughts. Go ahead, and you should be able to unmute now, Jim.
I just wanted to say thank you to Maureen.
Great. That's
Thank
great.
you, Jim. So good to see you. Jim was my boss's boss when I was at the Port of Oakland many moons ago, and has been a tireless advocate for the Bay Trail and the Water Trail and lots of other stuff ever since.
Well, that's great. It's great to leave behind a lot of friends. I'm going to be real interested in hearing what you do, what you're doing next, Maureen. Are you able to tell us anything, or is it kind of under wraps right now?
Riding mountain bikes, right?
I am currently dedicated to taking the summer off, and I'm doing a pretty good job so far. Yeah, I'm hiking and biking, and I'm doing some writing as well as riding. I write for a couple of mountain bike magazines, and yeah, and then some other. I write some for the Napa Valley Vine Trail, and yeah, so yeah, that's my plan, is to not have a plan. We'll see how that goes.
Oh, I want to see some of your mountain biking writing. I'm not that much of a mountain bicyclist myself, but I still would love to hear your perspective.
I'll send it your way.
Please do. I see a question from me. Well, let's see. Question from Lisa. Is it possible now to walk that dirt trail from the lookout? So that dirt trail we were talking about on by the Golden Gate Bridge, is that possible to walk? I don't think it is, right?
Well, you can actually walk down it. You just can't get through. So you would get to the bottom, and then you would have to turn back around again. So if you wanted to do that, you could, but you would just need to know that you cannot make that connection down to Fort Baker.
It's a one-way trail.
Out and back.
But someday it's going to connect, which is going to be awesome.
Yes.
Hey, Rodney, I got a question, a direct chat question I just want to answer. Someone was asking, what's the best way to get from Larkspur to the Richmond San Rafael Bridge? And, I wanted to point out that right now, Sir Francis Drake, which is like the kind of the most direct way you go in a car, is not going to be a comfortable bike ride for a lot of people. But what you can do, and is much more closer to all ages and abilities, although I think could still use some work, is taking that smart train tunnel, the Cal Park Hill Tunnel, from Larkspur north towards San Rafael, and then turning on Anderson Drive or Anderson Boulevard, whichever it is, and that takes you straight toward. So you take that, southeast toward the bridge. You'll go up a little hill, and that takes you to a protected two-way bike lane that crosses over the 580. So that's probably the best. That's the way I would say if you're coming from Larkspur. If you're coming from San Rafael on the canal, I also, we didn't really point this out, but there's good Bay Trail connections going to the bridge if you're coming from the north.
I'm going to go back. Let me go back to that slide because that is actually
I know,
a
kind
really
of describing
good point.
things. People, I should have made a map for folks. This would be helpful.
Oh, and by the way, these maps are on my on my website, so that you can all see this. But yeah, no, this stretch here is really nice.
Yeah.
The Anderson Drive thing you're talking about is right here. And yeah, and that's pretty. Actually, you know what? I haven't ridden this. I can't comment on this section, but I'm taking your word for it. It looks. I mean, it's considered completed Bay Trail, so it must be pretty good.
Yeah, it's a bike lane. There's not a ton of traffic. There is some there's the Marin Sanitary District there, and there's some truck traffic there, which again, most of the time it's fine. Sometimes there's some trucks. So I that's a place that I have my eye on that I think that I would love for the city of San Rafael to improve in its connections. But it's currently certainly the best way, except for the Bay Trail, the best way to get there from Larkspur or kind of central San Rafael.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that I do Sir Francis Drake Boulevard, but I would not recommend it for anybody except a really experienced cyclist who doesn't mind riding with a lot of traffic.
Yeah, and as actually someone in the chat pointed out, just avoid Francisco Boulevard until that spot kind of east of Grange, I guess.
So you're talking about the section of Sir Francis or
yeah,
Francisco Boulevard right here.
That's fine, but anything west of there, especially Francisco Boulevard East, which is east or sort of northeast of the freeway, is really unpleasant to ride on.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting too into the weeds here. I'll stop.
No, it's good stuff.
But someone asked something that I think MCBC, my organization, should put on our website, is just more clear instructions about how to get to and from the bridge. And I'll make sure we do that because I think that's not as accessible on our website as it ought to be. So that's good feedback.
Yeah, I can kind of get that sense too. We need, those of us who have this experience need to provide people with some actual routes. So maybe I need to do more of that too.
Yeah, it's hard. That's a confusing area. It's there's so many places where it's really, really good until it's really, really bad. And so it's hard to make those recommendations for folks, and especially knowing, not knowing the audience that you're talking to. Are you talking to someone with children, or you're talking to the experienced cyclist, because it's a totally different recommendation depending on who you're talking to.
It is Maureen, but my perspective is anything that's good for the person with the 10-year-old is good for me too.
Oh, sure.
I mean, it might need, some places it might mean I need to slow down a little and be respectful of, around Marina Bay and Richmond, there's a lot of people walking. So I'm not going to ride as fast as I normally ride. Mm-hmm. But I like that 10-year-old kid standard,
Yeah.
I'm putting the show notes address in again, because I think someone asked for me to show the Richmond attractions also. I'm assuming that's what Leslie was asking for. But this is all on my website. And so I'm going to try to get everything useful from this show onto this web page here.
Hey, Rodney, there have been
Yes.
some questions in chat about the best way to walk the bridge that I can address.
Please do, Bruce.
Yeah, it's very easy to walk the bridge one way and return using Golden Gate Transit Bus number 40, which runs about once an hour. And I recommend walking it westbound from Richmond to Marin because the traffic, you're not facing the traffic. If you walk from Marin, you're facing the oncoming traffic. And the bridge itself is 4.5 miles long, and the Golden Gate Transit bus stops are basically at the trailhead. They're at the San Quentin trailhead, Marin, at the Castro Street trailhead in Richmond. You could start right at the bridge at Stenmark Drive exit. There's limited parking there along roadside, but the bus doesn't stop there. But so walking from Castro Street to the bridge is about a mile, 4.5 across the bridge, 5.5 mile walk, return on the bus.
Yeah, that's a great, and what you could do is you could park in Point Richmond and then walk across the bridge, take the 40 bus back, like you said. And then where should we eat dinner in Point Richmond? Can you tell us, Bruce?
Well, there are many choices. You just walk through the Point Richmond Historic District and you can't go far wrong. There's Little Louie's, there's the Up and Under Rugby Pub, you name it, there's quite a variety.
We have not heard from Paco yet. Paco is a regular on this program. Paco, why don't you try unmuting and tell us your thoughts on this program?
You know what? I haven't gone hiking for a long time, like in the Marin, like Marin County.
Yeah. Oh, you need
And
to do
I
it.
haven't taken public transportation during this pandemic.
Well, hopefully you'll be, if you're not vaccinated yet, hopefully you will be soon, and that'll be possible.
I'm fully vaccinated already.
Well, there we go.
Last month. Yeah.
Cool. Well, Paco, it's
But
always,
I'm not ready yet, though.
you're not ready yet?
Yeah. Like taking a public transportation,
Yeah, I'm
But
doing it.
I'm just continuing the Zoom, I'm just going to continue the Zoom.
Good. Well, we love that because for everyone else's benefit, Paco has been on almost every single, like I've done like 80 some of these programs, and Paco's been on almost every single one. And so I really appreciate this. This has really helped me a lot during this pandemic, being connected with all of you through this. So I'm really grateful to everybody.
And
let's
I'm
see.
grateful to Richie also, Rodney.
Richie is Richie Unterberger, who is he does wonderful rock history programs. Many of you know him too. Yes, Paco is a super fan. Okay, William asks, who is responsible for glass sweeping on the Bay Trail along Canal Boulevard?
I can answer that, Rodney.
Please do.
That's the City of Richmond Public Works Department. They're usually very good about weekly sweeping of the Bay Trail in Richmond. If there's a problem, the city has an app or on their website, City of Richmond Connect, and they're usually very responsive to any issues that are out there.
Good to know. I'm trying, there's been
Hey,
a lot.
Rodney, I'll just add to that if I can. This is
Please do.
Dave. You can always use C-Click Fix, and they're connected to all the cities in the Bay Area. And if you're using a GPS device while you're using C-Click Fix, it'll send your complaint or your hazard or your request for sweeping to the right jurisdiction. C-Click Fix. I put it in the chat.
That is really great. That's one of the reasons I do this show is, I try to learn as much as I can about the things we talk about, but then I always learn new cool things. And I think that C-Click Fix app, I'm going to get that right away. I think that's going to be really handy for me because I'm out there checking out all these places. And we got a list of restaurants in Point Richmond. Thank you for that, Karen. What else? Forgive me if I've missed your question in chat, but you're welcome to raise your hand and unmute and tell us your thoughts or ask a question, or we can wrap things up. But we've had a really great discussion. I really want to thank my guests. So thank you, Dave, Warren, Andy, Maureen, and Bruce for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom on these topics. And for the great work you do. And a real call to action in all this, if you want to be involved in these questions, is the Bike East Bay and the Marin County Bicycle Coalition are great organizations. I'm members of both. So that's a great way to go. There's also the Trails for Richmond Action Committee, which I'm a member. And I don't think you even have dues to pay for them. And then just, talk to your elected officials about whatever your opinions are about these things we've been talking about. Other questions? You can also turn on your camera and wave your hand if you don't know how to.
Rodney,
Go ahead.
you know what? Last Sunday, that was my first time to eat on an outdoor restaurant.
Yeah, so you're eating in outdoor restaurants.
Yeah.
I'm
Like
doing.
last week.
I am double vaxxed, so I'm doing all this stuff now too. But I
Like
think
in
I'm
a
going to go
Japanese
ahead
restaurant in downtown.
and say that again,
You
Paco.
know, that was my first time to eat like in an outdoor, restaurant.
Well, I think we all
But
appreciate
I
these
haven't
things a lot
eaten
more.
inside the restaurant actually. I haven't eaten inside.
No, we haven't eaten inside either. So good. I want to thank everyone. Have a good evening, and thanks for joining
You
Bay Trail
too,
Confidential.
Brad.
Happy Cinco de Mayo. I didn't really talk about that. And
Yeah, happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone.
happy Cinco de Mayo. It's so great seeing everybody. Stay safe. Enjoy your Bay Trail.
Oh, Monday, huh? You're gonna be presenting on community living campaign.
This is true. We'll have an art program on Monday. Guess I can stop.
Thank you,
Laura
Rodney.
will be back tomorrow.
Yeah. I
Tomorrow
see
from Hawaii.
Jim has a raised hand. Go ahead, Jim. Hold on. We're not quite. Sorry about that. Hold on a second, Jim. Go ahead and unmute, Jim.
There it is. There it is. Wasn't letting me unmute. So, hey, I just wanted to tell you, I had a kidney transplant in August. And in October, they said I could get back on the bike again. So I did my therapy. I rode 1,000 miles in 10 weeks from the Bay Bridge and then around across the San Rafael. So I really appreciated being there, and I'm still riding it and very grateful. So thank you to all your hard work, everybody. It's really
Yes.
quite and a beautiful, beautiful place.
Yeah, that's a great story, Jim. I mean, I always
Great.
wonder like who I'm going by on the Bay Trail, like what their story is. For me, I just started really riding a lot after the pandemic started, and got the idea to do this show, and then decided I needed to see all of the Bay Trail, and it's a special place that brings us all together.
Yep, sure does. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I thought so Jim, I don't see any other raised hands, so let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
Have a good night and see you on a future Zoom program.
I'll probably see you on Monday.
You will definitely see
If
me on
not
Monday,
your
Paco.
program, I'm gonna go to Richie's program.
Yeah,
Probably.
Richie's program is going to be great.
Yeah.
My program, I hope it is going to be great. It's going to be about the Picasso Calder exhibition at the DeYoung Museum, which we just went to today to get ready for this. So good. I'm glad you're excited about that, Paco.
If I'm not gonna come to your first program, I'm gonna come to the second program, which is Richie's program.
Okay.
Like a musical rock.
Well, we would love, it'll be great to see you at either one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Rob.
Everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.